Hey guys, this is Leif. I pulled up a couple highlights that we can look at from this past weekend. I think that we have been getting better each week, implementing some of the things that we've been working on and spreading out. But obviously, still a lot of things that we can improve. But yeah, so I just wanted to play back these highlights so you guys can look at them. We can learn, and you guys can talk about it with your kids. So let me just play this out, and then I'll go back through and can analyze it. Yeah, so we win the ball, hit it to the corner. Evan gets there. And then eventually kick it, to the goalie, and he scoops it up. All right, so if we go look back at that, Nico makes a great run. Great to anticipate running in front of him rather than behind him, and cuts off his dribble. Uh, we have Grant gets there and Matei gets there. Really just needed one of them. So, if it's Matei's going to get there first, then Grant needs to get somewhere open space, or Matei lets Grant get that ball, so then Grant can pass it up to Matei or to Evan. So now we have three people in the exact same spot here, which is not ideal. And then basically, Matei and Nico are like working, side by side, and Nico actually just, boots it up. Love to see passes as opposed to just kicking and chasing, but actually works out and gets it to Evan. Matei initially goes down the sideline, but eventually goes towards the middle, which is what we want. Grant's going towards the middle. Good. Nico needs to cut off, be an option for Evan to pass back or to cut off, this player in case, Red wins it. All right, so Evan loses it. Nico wins it back. And Matei was right here, but then he gets sucked over to try to help, which actually, in the end doesn't help, because then Nico kicks it back to the corner, and the goalie just scoops it up. So if Matei, something we need to work on is just being a little bit more patient, waiting for our teammates to win that ball as opposed to just chasing and following the ball wherever it is around the field. Trust that your teammates are going to win it, and when they do, they're going to pass you the ball. Yeah, so if he stayed in the middle here, maybe Nico passes to him and he can get on the end of it and pass it over to Grant or shoot. That would have been a great opportunity. Too often, though, we're just chasing the ball all around the field and then just kicking it whenever we get to it, which ultimately doesn't help us. All right, so restarts. I just wanted to go over this again. I've talked to them a couple times about this. So our plan has been to just kick it to the corner and then to kind of, apply pressure, lock them down in there, cut off their passing lane so we can win the ball back, in our own offensive half, and then we'll be, close to their goal. So positionally, we need to, be better. Defense needs to, be closer together, probably up, there's no reason for them to be this far back. They're going to have, no impact on the game, way back here. So if they were lined up right here, ahead of the yellow line and closer together, that would be a lot better. Don't need them spread so far out. I mean, their goal is to protect the goal, and right now they're protecting the sidelines. So if we're not going to drop this ball back to the midfielder and kick it forward, then the midfielder should be up on the white line with everybody else, because we're all making this sprint to pressure their players. Max, wasn't quite ready. Needed to be up here, ready to run. So looking at where our player is at, Tayeb should have kicked it over to this side because that's where Henrik is. But he kicks it over to this corner. Actually does a nice kick, but now Henrik has to run across the field. Max isn't ready. Nate's not too far back. But I'll play this out. So I zoomed in here so you can see it. So if Max was up here ready to go right when Tayeb kicked it, he's probably in a position to block this pass. Nate does a really good job. So what Nate's goal is here is to cut off this pass to this player because that's the most likely place that the ball is going to go. Tayeb, after he kicks it, should run, forward to cut off, this pass. We kind of all get sucked in over to this side, and Henrik should be, up here, cut off passes to this side of the field. So Nate intercepts it, and then just kicks it forward. What I've liked to have seen, so a great interception, but he has space in front of him. He could dribble, take one dribble, and that would make a huge difference because that would suck in, this defender to come and face up to Nate. And then that would allow Max to continue his run to the corner. And so then when Nate makes that pass, the defender is going to be on Nate, and it'll free up Max, in the corner by himself. And then Tayeb continue his run to the middle, and Henrik should be up here. But we do a good job. I mean, this is kind of what we want from the restart is to pressure them down in their own end, right by their own goal, win the ball back, and then be able to get some chances. Nate should probably be dropped back a little bit, guarding this pass. Again, Tayeb needs to be in the middle. Henrik needs to be up here in the box, with the rest of us. Max wins the ball. If Tayeb is right here, you just slide that across and it's a goal. He takes a shot off the post. Good job following it up here. We almost block it into the goal. This is probably our best chance. Before. Yeah, if Henrik's up here, he can get on that loose ball and score. So just being smarter positionally wise and anticipating what's going to happen next would do us great. So now this is zoomed out. So again, Henrik should have been up here. As you can see, the defenders haven't moved an inch from the kickoff. We actually have one sitting down. We're basically playing with two less players on the field if they're not involved. So they need to be up at midfield. Probably one of them, I'd like to be a little bit even closer to slow down the initial pass. If like this gets cleared out to one of these players, they can slow down, possibly intercept it, and then you have one dropped further back at midfield so that if anything gets behind that first defender, they can cut off and slow down and wait for help from the rest of the team. There's just way too much space in the middle of the field. I mean, if the ball gets to them, they're going to be sprinting, and it's going to be their defenders. Our defenders are going to be at a disadvantage because they have so much field to work with. But that's why I said we need to be more compact. So play on half of the field as opposed to trying to defend the entire field. All right, last one. Henrik has the ball on the sideline. I just wanted to have it zoomed out so you can see where everybody is. Again, defenders, standing still at the yellow line. Midfielders, don't know what happened before this, but would have liked them to see, them farther up the field joining in. But Braden's making a great run to the middle. Henrik's making a great run down the sideline. Zoom in so you can see it. But hats off to the red team. They did a great job. You can see they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players back. And all 5 players aren't chasing the ball. They only have 1 player chasing the ball. The other are defending in front of their goal, which is exactly, what we want to do. We want, if you have, 4 of our players in front of the goal, it's going to be very hard for the other team to score. And just like, it's very hard for our team to score here. So Henrik loses it. So I would have liked to seen, obviously, Max and Nate further up helping here. Nate needs to make this run right here because most likely, if the ball's in the corner, red team wins it, they're going to be kicking it right up here. And if Nate's there to intercept it, he then can pass it back to Henrik, pass it over to Max, pass it to Braden, and we have a bunch of good options. So Braden, like I said, doesn't stay in the middle and kind of loses patience and comes over here to help. Would have liked him to stay here in the middle because, sure enough, the ball does come back out here, and Nate would have been able to pick that ball up and get it back to our team. Yeah, so now you have Nate, Braden and Henrik, standing right on top of each other so that they're not able to do anything. Braden actually kicks it at Henrik twice. But Henrik wins it back. Again, we're way out of shape, not where we want. We don't have anybody in front of the goal. And now we have, basically, Nate and Braden, playing defense on Henrik, and he's forced to dribble around them to try to get the ball, in front of the goal. So, we're hurting ourselves by, bunching all up together. We're actually playing defense on ourselves. And yeah, if we had, if Braden was still in the middle, maybe he's able to get on the end of that, cross there. If, like I said, if Nate was able to, win the ball here, Henrik stays in the corner, then you have a bunch of good options. Zooming back out, defenders haven't moved an inch. Yeah, if the ball's moving, everybody needs to be moving. You shift to wherever the ball is on the side of the field, or forward or backward. You're always moving. So again, they probably should be up at the half. You could even have Morgan on this player, so if the ball gets to him, he can cut it off. That would be the best possible defense, is if the other team doesn't even get the ball. So if the ball comes out, Morgan can win that, pass it back, and then drop back again. Again, I don't want them, a part of the attack and leave ourselves completely exposed. But you also don't want to give the other team so much space to work with it. If they get the ball, we're really at a disadvantage, trying to defend all the space of the field. All right. Well, thank you. Hope to see you guys, this week. Take care.